as our superintendent. So we have a couple of things to talk about here. It gives me great pleasure to recognize and thank Dr. Michael Grego for his dedication, service to Pinellas County children and families while serving on the board of JWB. Mike was appointed to the board in 2012 as an ex officio capacity as Pinellas County School Superintendent. His strong leadership, guidance, and contributions have served us well on the JWB board over the past 10 years. Throughout his tenure and service on the JWB board, Dr. Grego has been a steadfast leader and staunch advocate for quality learning, quality early learning, universal pre-K and VPK, out-of-school time and summer programming, intensive literacy instruction, and mental health intervention and support. Thanks to Mike's leadership, JWB has been a true partner with the school system at every level, from how our school success programs are structured to which students and schools need services and the most of the services, and how JWB collects and reports data. Plus, we have one of the most robust data sharing agreements in place with our local school districts, providing JWB with the ability to more effectively evaluate school readiness and school success programs. He has worked with us to reduce duplication and inefficiencies and to measure school success of those students JWB serves by using data tools that align with the district. With a commitment to continuous quality improvement, he and his stellar team regularly consult with JWB on which students and schools need deeper end intervention and to better align JWB funded out-of-school time and summer programs to meet the district's needs. For example, Promise Time programming offers in 47 Title I elementary schools. Summer Bridge RAP, which complements the district's Summer Bridge program, aims at mitigating summer learning loss. JWB funds RAP support, extending the learning day and the number of weeks during the summer to give working parents peace of mind and that their children are safe. 13 middle school academies that provide education-based out-of-school time programming for the safety and supervision to youths and working parents, while enhancing students' academic achievement and improving social skills. Dr. Grego has also been a strong advocate for on-time grade level reading and enhanced literacy skills for students. He was integral force behind the JWB's initial investment and expansion of intensive literacy programming, and his team have been key partners in the JWB's grade level reading campaign. The Juvenile Welfare Board would like to take this opportunity to publicly announce that and thank Pinellas County School Superintendent Dr. Michael Grego for his steadfast leadership, countless contributions, and dedicated service to children and family of Pinellas County as a member of the JWB Board. Mike, on behalf of the Juvenile Welfare Board, we thank you. We thank you for your extraordinary stewardship, countless contributions, and dedicated service to the children and families of Pinellas County. We have a token of our appreciation for you. Mike, would you? You have a chance if you'd like to say one last thing before you're gone.
Sure. Thank you very much, Michael, and to the JWB staff for your leadership over the last 10 years. It's been a great ride, and certainly not going anywhere. I'm just stepping down from the superintendency. The school district's in a phenomenal place, and I always promise myself I'll try to leave it when it's in a good spot. It's great academically. It's in a good spot financially, human capital-wise, leadership-wise. So it's in a good place, and I very much appreciate the thought partners that are with JWB. We're faced a lot with challenges in a school district or in a community they're no different than the school district. And for many times in conversation, we always, in that partnership, we always turn to and say, what about working, or what about to see if the JWB board and its members could help? And that's a comforting piece of information. And it's like when someone says, well, you know, your phone keeps ringing, and I said, no, don't worry about that, because they believe you can help them. Worry about it when your phone doesn't ring, because then they've given up on you. And so I can say to you that this board and the staff here, we continually look to for assistance and for guidance, and also to be a partner, a true partner, where individuals give on both sides. We have a lot of partnerships where it's all one way. Seems like you understand what that is, but JWB has always been a partner that has contributed. When I first arrived here, we had really little to no after-school programs in our schools. When the bell rang, a lot of those folks just went home, and we've expanded that to tens of thousands of students after school. But child care now, that is such a major endeavor of summer and for the school year. It's not just the summer. But we would not be having the participation in our summer bridge program if it wasn't for the wraparound services. That's let it be known, and I say that as frequently as I can speak about the topic. Parents need that. So look forward to a very robust another summer bridge program. And let it be known also that the model that we've established here is being replicated throughout the state. Other counties call their summer program as if they feel like they're supposed to, summer bridge. That was a term we had, not them, but you know, what's the saying? Flattery is the greatest form of flattery is imitation. So there's summer bridge programs all over the state of Florida. They think they designed it. That's good, and because if kids are benefiting from it, and that's even better. You know, so my only charge, even with my staff, is to keep pushing boldly. If the goal's too simple or too easy and you're not afraid of it, then you're not pushing hard enough. It's been a mantra I've pushed in this district for the last 10 years, and it does produce results. So keep pushing, and don't underestimate your ability to accomplish things, whether it be grade level reading, 90+%, VPK, whatever it might be. Push hard, and you'd be amazed of what you can accomplish. But certainly thank you for the honor today, and it's been a wonderful, wonderful 10 years and 42 years actually in education. You're supposed to say, Mike, you don't look like you're supposed to. But I started in 1980, believe it or not, as my first assignment. And here we are at 2022. Who would have ever thought that I would ever get to 2022? So we're in good hands. As the board decides on the next superintendent, I ask that you support that person as much as you've supported me, and I guarantee you it will be in great hands too. So thank you so much. Yeah.
Once again, Mike, thank you for all you've done and all you will do.
My pleasure.
Okay. Yes.
Mr. McCurrick, if I may jump in, we have a finance committee meeting that was supposed to take place prior to the board meeting. So if we could just jump in, it's in everybody's, who's on the finance committee's board packet. I think we don't have the paper in front of us. It is just to approve the minutes. So if you could call that and ask the people on the finance committee to assist you.
Okay. I'll call that finance committee meeting quickly. We have a
Motion to approve the minutes from the April 28th Finance Committee meeting.
Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve the minutes from April 28th, 2022.
Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. Motion's carried. Meeting's closed. Okay. Let's move on to the consent agenda, or consent items. Do I have a motion to approve? I have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye. All in favor? Okay, motion's approved. Let's move on to the action items. Select September 2022 trim hearing and board meeting dates. Laura?
Good morning. As you're aware, the Florida statutes require us to schedule meetings to adopt and vote on the trim hearings. And so we have to go through certain criteria. We've got several meetings that we have to schedule, as well as advertising within the newspapers and so forth. We have carefully looked at other meetings that are held or scheduled to be held in September, to include the Pinellas County Commission meetings as well as the Pinellas County School Board meetings. And we've also reviewed the calendars for any conflicts that may occur with holidays or other items. So before you, we have 3 options that we would like to have a discussion. The meetings have to be held after 5 p.m., Monday through Friday. They can be scheduled for Saturdays as well. The 3 options we have before you are option number 1, which is Wednesday, September 7th, followed by Wednesday, September 21st. So that would be the preliminary tentative hearing, and then the other would be the final hearing. Option number 2 is on a Friday, September 9th and September 23rd. And option number 3 would be on a Wednesday, September 14th and September 28th. Once you decide on that meeting, we would then ask that you reschedule the current board meeting, which is scheduled for the 28th, to be at 3:30, so it would be followed immediately thereafter by the trim hearing meeting. So I'll turn it back over to you for discussion.
Any comments?
I'm going to throw out, as a place to start, option 3, to give the staff towards the end of the month after, and would be in line with the school board and the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners. So I'll just toss that out as an option to start.
I have a rescheduled call conflict with the 28th of September. The other dates are clear for me. The option 3 works best for everybody else, that's fine.
I got a problem with that 28th, so.
And so do I.
I'm booked up in trial every Wednesday until, almost, and so I can come late, but I just won't make the 3 o'clock board meeting.
How's option 1 look for everybody?
And that's fine. Option 1, the first date, I may not be here, but I'm only one person if everybody else is good with option 1.
Yeah, it's really. So again, option 1 appears to be the best for everyone. Then do I have a motion to move to, we have motion and a second? A motion and a second, all in favor say aye. Okay, so we're going to use option 1.
And then we'll also move the board meeting.
Yeah, and that just, yeah, that would come with it. I don't think we don't need to vote on moving the board meeting, do we?
No, you can
Okay.
reschedule the board meeting as appropriate if you want to move it to that Wednesday, the 21st.
Okay.
Does that option need, does the move of the board meeting need to be done now? Because if we could make the board meeting that 3:30 that day, and that clears up some calendar.
Sure.
You can decide to move it now, that's fine, or you could decide to move it whenever you'd like. If you'd like to just decide now as a board that you're going to move the board meeting to that 21st at 3:30, that's great. It makes it easier on staff for our public notices.
Do I have a motion to move it?
I think it helps to do it now if everybody's available at 3:30 that day. That it's just one less item that has to come back before this board. So the option is, the motion is that option number 1, September 7th and September 21st, with the board meeting taking place September 7th at 3:30 in the afternoon.
September 7th or September 21st?
September 21st is works?
Yeah, it's be 21st.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye. Okay. All right, let's then move on to item B, the approve the award to the Children's Home, Inc. for respite services request for a proposal. Karen?
Yes, good morning. Karen Bogus, Chief Program Officer. So I'm here this morning, and I will read the recommended action. Approve the award to Children's Home, Inc. for respite services request for proposals. Approve fiscal year '22 budget amendment for $783,204 from future programming to Children's Home, Inc. And this action item is in alignment with two of our strategic result areas, early childhood development and prevention of child abuse and neglect. And I have been coming before you this past year several times, first with the design and development of this respite RFP. Next, I came in December for the approval of release of the RFP. And today, I'm here before you seeking approval for award for this RFP. The main goal of the respite services is to strengthen the family system, reduce stressors, and ultimately keep children from entering the child welfare system. This RFP is intended to replace our current respite services program with PARC, and that contract is due to end at the end of the fiscal year. We received one proposal from Children's Home, Inc., which they are doing business as Children's Home Network. We have both Larry Cooper, who is the Chief of Prevention and Intervention Services, as well as Carol Hajanak, the Director of Community Counseling, here today from Children's Home Network. The evaluation committee reviewed and scored, and you will see the attachments for both the scoring of round 1, scoring of round 2, and the ranking and recommendation. In addition, our Chief Financial Officer reviewed all of their financial criteria and information as part of this process. And they were invited to move to the phase of interview. This was a day-long interview with them and the evaluation committee. And the interview included the CEO, President Irene Rickus of the organization, Larry Cooper, Carol Hajanak, their CFO, and a board member. During the interview process, the evaluation committee did express some concerns in regards to salaries of some of the direct care staff in light of what is happening across all of our programs in terms of workforce stabilization. And it was through that discussion that the CEO had indicated that after they submitted their proposal, they had gone through a process of surveying their staff, also going to their board with a strategic plan, and part of that was increasing salaries to make them more competitive. So through this process, we do have a best and final offer that the evaluation committee could exercise, and so the evaluation committee exercised that, and they said that they would come back with 2 best and final offers. One within the 240 they had originally put forward in their proposal of families being served, and the other, looking at the salaries and projecting about 160 families being served. So today, the evaluation committee is recommending option of 160 families being served, and the rationale for that is that this program, and I would call it more of a system, the complexity, the different modalities that they are going to be putting in place, all of that is going to take time, building the partnerships in the community and potentially starting smaller, getting it right, and then looking to expand potentially in the future. And if this is successful, other funding sources may be able to be accessed at that time. So so the amount for this fiscal year, as I stated earlier, would be $783,204. The annualized amount would be $2,637,344. And if this is awarded, the contract would be due to be executed as of June 1st. I open up for questions.
Seeing no questions, then do I have a motion to approve? Do I have a second? I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. Motion's approved.
Thank you, and on behalf of, I will just say this, on behalf of the team that developed the RFP and the evaluation committee, this has been a labor of love over the last year and a half, and so thank you. We're really excited to work with Children's Home Network and see the implementation and development of this. I'm up again.
Action item C, approval of early learning coalition, Pinellas County Inc. School Readiness plus Children's Screening and Intervention Contract.
I know that's quite the title, right? So I will read the recommended action. Approve sole source and fiscal year 22 award of $40,412 to Early Learning Coalition of Pinellas County for the School Readiness Plus Child Screening and Intervention Program. This program would address two of our result areas, early childhood development and school readiness. In September of 2020, when the board approved the 5-year strategic plan, it created the newest result area, which is early childhood development. And so this program would be addressing a number of strategies under that, as well as school readiness. And JWB staff are seeking to sole source this to Early Learning Coalition because they currently screen children using online ages and stages questionnaire as required by the Department of Education Division of Early Learning. And the ages and stages, also the ages and stages questionnaire, social emotional too. And the time periods are built in when children should be assessed, which is every 6 months. Screening children is an effective way to monitor children's development to ensure they are on track or to help determine if further services are needed. The evidence-based tool, when implemented with fidelity, is to be completed by parents and caregivers. And currently in Pinellas County, only 13% of parents are completing the ages and stages questionnaire. So this program is seeking for staff to work directly with parents and caregivers to not only complete the questionnaire, but really help them understand what children's developmental milestones are. Also, to help them understand the results and connect them to appropriate services in the community when needed. In addition, working with the families on best practices and activities of how to help children achieve these milestones. And also, we have there would be bilingual Spanish-speaking staff, as well as the ages and stages is offered in Spanish. The program is estimated to serve 150 children annually, and we begin serving families in August of this year. And they would use the month of July to begin hiring and training staff. And we do have Julie Mastery from the Chief Program Officer from ELC, as well as Angela Tufts, the Provider Services Manager, if we have any questions. The annualized amount for this program is just over $168,000. I open it up for questions.
Do you have any questions, Doctor?
How do you decide on the individuals? What, you're looking at screening 150 students for that amount? Well, how do you decide who gets screened?
It's with the program that we fund, the children that are in the School Readiness Plus. So the children that we fund in School Readiness Plus are the children who families are just above the income of the dollars available through the state. So we fund children in that arena, and that we're going to I would say we're piloting this for those 150 children with the idea that if this is successful and understanding what kind of services that they're needed to link them up with, this is something we may want to look to expand in the future.
So the concept is 150 students get a questionnaire with their parents, attach them to services, and then what's the outcome? Is that their services are helping them?
So the tool is assessing or screening and every 6 months a child and looking at the different domains of cognitive development and all of that. If the child is not on track and if it is the results show that there is a need for further either interventions, further screening, for further other things to find, the program, the staff will help that family link them immediately. What we hear so often is that families fall through the cracks. They're not, or they're on wait lists for services, or they don't know how to navigate and access the system. So the staff would not only help them understand what the Ages and Stages questionnaire is asking, how they can help their child meet milestones, but if necessary, link them and follow up with them to ensure that they're receiving appropriate services.
Thank you.
I was going to ask if the staff members had anything to add or to respond.
I think Karen did a really good job. And the reason it's 150 students, those are the only students in ESR Plus. This was a special program to meet the families that two parents might be working, so they're just over 300% of the poverty level. So we got funding so they can continue working or going to school. They didn't meet all the criteria. So it's a very narrow field. Those girls were starting.
Any other comments or questions?
Move approval.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Okay, it's approved. All right, moving now on to Early Learning Coalition's Early Learning Program Assessment Contract.
And I will read the recommended action. Approve sole source and fiscal year '22 award for $40,412 to Early Learning Coalition of Pinellas County for the for the Early Learning Program Assessment. Again, this meets two result areas, early childhood development and school readiness. JWB staff are recommending to sole source this program to the Early Learning Coalition because ELC is currently using the Classroom Assessment Scoring System, otherwise known as CLASS, to assess early learning providers. This is a research-based tool that measures teacher-child interactions, including instructional learning formats, behavior management, educator sensitivity to children, and positive learning environments. The Early Learning Coalition currently assesses 50% of classrooms in all of their early learning centers and uses the composite scores to determine if the center is eligible to contract with ELC. Programs are assessed annually or biannually determined by the scores. In this program, we would be requiring all of our directly JWB-funded centers to have every single classroom assessed, pre- and post-tested during the year. And the ELC staff who would be involved with this program are Lassinger certified coaches. And as noted in the memo, the Yale Child Study Center found significantly higher improvements with using certified coaches. The staff will also provide intensive coaching, training, and technical assistance to all the early learning staff. So this program has the potential to impact 65 classrooms, serving 120 teachers and over 600 children. The annualized amount for this program is $310,457, and this program, again, will be beginning in August, if approved today. I'm opening up for questions.
Okay, do we have any questions or comments from ELC staff?
Move approval.
Second?
We have a motion and second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
These are too easy.
Thank you.
But thank God the programs are that great.
Well, I think it's easy because we've been briefed, we understand, and these are strategic lead areas, and so we have the history here. So I wouldn't want us to think that it's easy because we're just moving along. We've been briefed, we get it, and good programs that we're ready to fly. So thank you.
It's also easy because you all do such a great job. So
Right.
thank you very much.
Okay, so now that we've gotten all the easy ones out of the way, let's move on to action item E, to approve the Central Square mediation agreement. Laura?
Thank you. Good afternoon. I'm sorry, good morning. Seems like afternoon, but we've only been here since 9 o'clock. Yes, so we're here today to approve the resolution with Central Square Technologies LLC to refund JWB $90,000 and to authorize the execution of the agreement and the mutual release. Central Square Technologies had responded to an RFP, a request for proposal, that we had sent out for accounting and financial management software. We were looking to replace our current accounting software, which is Great Plains. The contract was awarded to them on January 13th, 2020. Our kickoff meeting began on March 9th of 2020, and we had scheduled in the contract and agreement to go live October 1st, 2020. The implementation process was delayed for various reasons, including a change in the project manager. Central Square had several staff turnovers. We had open items that had continued to be outstanding, and we had unmet deadlines. Central Square was put on notice of breach of the agreement by our legal counsel on August 30th, 2021, which was in accordance and pursuant to our agreement. And they had 30 days, which was in accordance with our contract, to cure those breaches to our satisfaction. Otherwise, the agreement would be terminated. On October 1st, 2021, the agreement with Central Square was terminated, and our staff began pre-mediation meetings. So we had several meetings. Our mediation was held on April 20th of 2022, and we came to a settlement. So we're here today to ask for a settlement agreement of $90,000 in full settlement. Our cost incurred with Central Square was $117,805. We did calculate loss of time when we were going through our negotiations. We tried to throw everything in that we could think of. We had calculated loss of time of about $175,000. We had incurred additional costs to continue our legacy platform with Great Plains. That was $27,000, but we're continuing to use Great Plains as our accounting software. So we haven't had any hiccups relative to our internal accounting as far as that goes. In addition to that, we did have a lot of debriefing meetings internally. We scheduled meetings to kind of go back through the whole process to see were there lessons learned, have we been set back relative to that. And we found that we could have probably done a better job with our scope of services in the contract. And unfortunately, when you go through demos and you go through these types of things, you really don't see the full, robust of the platform. And so perhaps a better job in that area as well. We have reached out to a consultant to kind of help us look at and vet out accounting platforms going forward, whether or not we will issue an RFP or try to piggyback another government's accounting software. But we felt like the accounting staff in my department, who has worked diligently over the last 2 years, they needed a little breath instead of just jumping right into a new software. So we've been utilizing Great Plains. We've been able to produce our financial statements, pay our bills, manage our payroll and so forth. And so I'm here today to answer any questions and to get approval to authorize that settlement.
Any questions? It's pretty quiet. I'm
Move
sorry.
approval.
Just move to approval? Okay.
Second.
No questions at all, so that's good. I can see Laura's not here, so she was expecting that to happen. Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, same sign. It's approved. All right, now let's move on then to presentations. The Early Childhood Development 0 to 3 update. Barbara?
Just about a year ago, I was here to talk about what we envisioned. Oh, thanks, Beth. Just about a year ago, I was here to talk about what we envisioned for the early childhood development result area. And what I would like to do today is to bring you up to date on what we've done in that year in terms of both existing programming and some things that we are recommending for fiscal year 23 and some exciting information about our new LOIs, to the extent that I can talk about it, because we're in a cone of silence. So this is the update. First of all, I want to mention that we have had some wonderful administrative and technical support. I would like to introduce you to Dr. Gail Ingraham. Gail, if you would stand, please, who is an expert in kinship, and she oversaw the Kinship Program from the Children's Home Network funded by JWB. Gail and I have known each other for a long time, and one of my thoughts is we will be very strained to meet the needs of children 0 to 3 without a laser-like focus on their families. They are everything for them is embedded with the status of their family. So we really want to put much more emphasis on kinship care and support for families. So Gail seemed like a natural, and she's joined us, and I'm delighted. We also have a 0 to 3 think tank, which is an ongoing process of strategic and technical advice in the 0 to 3 area. We have 12 experts who have been with us now for a year, who have various areas of expertise within early childhood services. We have 3 subcommittees: policy, research and evaluation, strategies and implementation. And we were meeting quarterly. We have now shifted to a monthly meeting schedule for both the entire think tank as well as the 3 subcommittees. So this is a pretty big time commitment from those experts, and they've been very helpful in guiding us in some of the things that you will see further in this presentation. The Early Childhood Development Strategic Goal, as stated, is that children 0 to 3 will meet appropriate physical, social, emotional, cognitive, and developmental milestones. So all of the things that I will cover with you this morning are in service of meeting that particular goal. Strategy 1 is to implement a cognitive, social, and emotional tool to link children 0 to 3 to critical services. JWB programming should ensure linkage to services occurs and a high-level quality service provision is in place. JWB-funded programs should use outcomes of evaluations to inform service delivery. So what have we done to implement Strategy 1.1? First of all, and you just heard this from Karen, some of these you will know because over the course of the year, these have been presented to you in both concept and for your approval for funding. So you will recognize many of these. As she just talked about, one of the contracts that has been given to the Early Learning Coalition is to use the Ages and Stages questionnaire as she described for cognitive and social emotional milestones. And the fact that you just funded it suggests that you are approving of this particular strategy. Okay, next. We also have in this particular strategic area the Infant Family Mental Health Center at the University of South Florida, and it offers infant and early childhood mental health screening, referral, assessment, and therapy for Pinellas family counties with children 0 to 5 who exhibit behavior problems, social emotional problems. And you will see that a total of 283 individuals were served with 87 children. And this is an example of something that you'll see throughout. We have what I would call kind of 2 tracks in looking at these programs. First of all, I would say that JWB has been for a while serving children 0 to 3, but not necessarily in a targeted way. In other words, there have been 0 to 3 children who are in the service and catchment populations of existing programs, as you will see. So they have been served. What we haven't done is necessarily lift the children out of those programs for any kind of specific sub-analysis to know if the 0 to 3 children have issues or needs that might be different. But they have been served in many areas, as you will see. The other thing that we're proposing today are services that are specifically targeted to children 0 to 3 as the primary service population and their families. So one example, for example, is Dr. McHale's program, which has been funded for several years. They served children 0 to 5 and their families, but clearly children 0 to 3 are in that population as well. Strategy number 2, engage parents, grandparents, and other significant adults in a child's life to promote healthy caregiver relationships and provide advocates for young children. So what do we have in this strategy? First, we have the kinship support programs. Children's Home Network Kinship, which you've provided a grant to today, and they provide intensive prevention services to support stability of children in relative and non-relative placements to divert out-of-home placements. And one of the things that I want to say for me personally as evaluator, diverting children from out-of-home care has been an outcome measure that JWB has used for quite a while in many of its services. What I'm also interested in is, in addition to keeping those children in out-of-home placement, how are they doing at home? That's the other critical piece. We don't want them to go in out-of-home care, but how are they doing at home in their current situations, and what can we do to support, enhance those situations that these 0 to 3 children are in? Next. We have also in terms of preparing children, we have the Miami-Dade Learning Partnership, Reach Out and Read. I think we had a presentation on Reach Out and Read just about a year ago. And some of our advisors on the 0 to 3 think tank have had experience with this program and are very strong advocates of it. As you might recall, it provides books in pediatricians' offices that encourage and enable parents of very young children to read to them during appointments and at home to promote cognitive development and strengthen parent-child bonding. Between November 1st, 2021 and March 31st, 2022, 1,554 books have been provided across 6 sites in Pinellas County. Another emerging area this has come up in our think tank is grand families, and it has become an emerging focus. There is a growing advocacy, research and advocacy and policy focus on grandparents, particularly those that have sole custody of their grandchildren. So there are subpopulations of these. Beth and I had, an interesting conversation about this, because very often I think of the grandmother who's 75 and dealing with her own physical challenges and aging at the same time that she's trying to raise grandchildren on her own, probably on Social Security. And Beth reminds me, but there are grandmothers today who are 45. So what we know is that there is variability, and there are subsets of grand families that we may need to address and deal with in different ways. But there is increasing emphasis on them. There is a policy and advocacy forum at the federal level for a call to action. Many states have promulgated legislation and financial support for these grand families in recognition of the burden that they're carrying. Out of love, I might add. In Pinellas County, there are 15,543 grandparents who report living with their grandchildren, and some of these are just multi-generational households, many of which are more characteristics of certain ethnic and cultural groups. And 40% of those children are under 6 years of age. We weren't able to get the specific data for 0 to 3. But what is interesting is almost 5,000 grandparents report sole responsibility for their grandchildren. What we have done in the 0 to 3 think tank is try to envision what a multidimensional, full-blown strategy to support grand families would look like. And it doesn't mean that JWB would fund all of those components, but we would certainly be looking for strategic partners in doing that. And that's what we called our Grand Families Logic Model. It looks at our goal. It looks at who our partners might be. It looks at what services need to be provided, how we would select participants. It lays out a series of outcomes that we would hope to see coming out of this, and also specific outcome measures. So it really is a service development or system development and evaluation plan that we would have for grand families. And so that's in draft right now, and we are continuing to refine it in the 0 to 3 think tank. Strategy 1.3, launch a campaign targeting parents and caregivers of children 0 to 3 to ensure that children achieve critical milestones and that practical application of early childhood education principles are understandable, known, and applied. Well, our major focus for this, and April Putsalu is taking the lead on this, is to develop our outreach campaign, our meeting and engagement campaign for caregivers, and there's been quite a amount of work done in getting that up and going. So these are just sort of milestone activities up to the present. As you can see, in February, you approved a contract to Vistra Communications to design the campaign. Vistra has been very busy in conducting comprehensive research and discovery sessions through interviews, through focus groups. They have interviewed members of the 0 to 3 think tank to get their thoughts on what the messaging should be, to whom it should be targeted, what are the best ways to deliver that messaging. And so in April, they're really doing what they call concept testing. What I saw were sort of 4 potential strategies and approaches and material and design. And so they're really testing that now, almost as if a product company would, you know, what would the boxing look like? What's your favorite flavor? That kind of thing. So they're doing the concept testing along the way. So that's going on right now in what they call V-Labs and in focus groups. So what will happen is they will decide which of those 4 concepts they get the greatest support for, and then they'll move forward with the full-blown development of the campaign. Strategy 1.4, invest in the expansion and capacity of high-quality childcare for children 0 to 3 in areas of historically low opportunity, working in partnership with the Early Learning Coalition. So in this domain, one of the things that we talked about last time I presented on this about a year ago was that we did sort of a comprehensive look back and analysis of our first effort to do a quality early learning initiative, which we call QELI. There were some lessons learned in that first attempt, which led us to do a modification of the approach with what we thought were some stricter standards and more realistic assessments. And so we're really happy to report that we are now launching a new QELI using all of those guidelines and lessons learned from the last time around. The contract went to Our Club Childcare, and it will be located in what they call their Lemon Street location in Tarpon Springs. And in this contract, there is strict adherence to our required quality components, including use of the Ages and Stages questionnaire and the class assessment, which Karen just described to you, and we'll also be using Teaching Strategies Gold Curriculum, which is an evidence-based curriculum for children 0 to 3. This is an example of a 0 to 3 targeted program. This is specifically for children ages 0 to 3, and they will be served in 5 classrooms. As you may well know, the level of staffing requirements are very different for infants and toddlers. And so you need many more staff in your whole program because the ratios are much smaller. Am I saying that right? They're smaller. I was thinking for a minute, maybe they're higher. They're actually smaller. But generally, for 0 to 3 classrooms, 1 classroom teacher can handle 2 to 4 children. In Pinellas County, it's 0 to 2. 1 to 3. 1 to 3 for infants. I have to care for those details. 1 to 3 for infants. In many other places, it's 1 to 4, and in some 1 to 5. So our 1 to 3 ratio is considered a very good ratio for that. But if you've raised infants and babies, you know what it takes to take care of them all day. Imagine trying to do 3 or 5 in that same space. Okay, so our club is going to do this Lemon Street special quality QELI classroom. Karen just went over, so I won't repeat the class assessments that ELC is going to be doing. She explained what that is. So Shannon, we can move on to the next slide. Now, one of the things that we've done, and this was in response to discussions we had a year ago and have been ongoing discussions in the think tank about the problems that child care centers are having in recruiting and maintaining staff, and dealing with turnover issues and insufficient coverage in the classroom. And we had discussions with many of the early childhood care providers who really, I think, provided very compelling evidence that they needed to recruit more staff, they had to pay them better and competitively in order to keep them in place and reduce the turnover, which has a very negative impact, obviously, on both the staff and particularly on the children. So workforce stabilization funding, which is assistance with staff salaries, hiring additional staff, doing training and professional development. This was a much bigger initiative, but within that initiative, there were 5 early child care programs who got workforce stabilization funding. And they're listed there: Learning Empowered, Our Club Child Care, both Lou Williams and the Our Community Pride Healthy Learning Program, YMCA of Greater St. Petersburg, and the Florida Department of Health, Healthy Families Pinellas. All of them got some workforce stabilization funding. Strategy 1.5, strengthen and continue home visiting program targeting high-risk populations. So in this category, we have the Florida Department of Health, Healthy Families Program, and Healthy Families, as you may know, is a nationwide network of the Healthy Families of America, and the Florida Department of Health is one member of that network that provides intensive evidence-based home visiting and family support and services for families of children 0 to 5. In fiscal year 21, they served 1,943 people, and 920 of those were children between the ages of 0 and 5. The Florida Department of Health Nurse Family Partnership. Now, this is an example of a program that is specifically targeted to the wee ones, the infants and toddlers. So the Nurse Family Partnership Program is an evidence-based home visiting program helping first-time, low-income mothers, I would say parents, and their children succeed. The program provides parenting education, breastfeeding support, referrals to community services, parent enrichment, and for the whole prenatal period from birth through the second birthday of the child in order to improve pregnancy outcomes, child health and development, and family economic self-sufficiency. So in FY21, there were 380 participants in this program, 161 of which were children ages 0 to 2. Operation PAR, Inc., Motivating New Parents, and this is interesting to show you, this used to be called Motivating New Moms, and they changed the name to Motivating New Parents in increasing recognition that fathers are a critical part of the development and support system for young children in addition to mothers. So Motivating New Parents offers intensive intervention program for substance abusing parents and their drug-exposed infants with parent support, parenting skills, case management, wraparound services, and access to treatment for parents and for their children up to age 5. And in fiscal year 21, 95 parents were served in this program. Okay. Now, with all of that being said, when we looked at the total investment that JWB is going to make, we looked at all of the approved funding allocations for fiscal year 23 for those programs that have been around for a while, as well as the new programs we are initiating in fiscal year 23. And that total investment is $11,404,086. That's a significant, substantial investment. And what we are going to be doing is evaluating all of these programs very rigorously to demonstrate to you what that return on investment is for young children and for their parents. Next slide. Okay, strategy 1.6, develop or adopt program-level core outcome measures and evidence-based measures. So this leads right into what I said before about the demonstration of good outcomes and return on investment. So what are we going to do in this arena? First, we have an ongoing task of evaluators assigned to the early child development programs. Additionally, we are really requiring the use of validated measures. And we say sometimes recommended by professionals on the 0 to 3 think tank. For example, there were some validated instruments that our team was not aware of that the think tank members made available to us. Our emphasis is on the use of evidence-based interventions with evaluation measures and validated protocols embedded in the design. One of the things that I found is people throw around the term evidence-based with really not understanding exactly what it means. One of the things about an evidence-based intervention is, if it is truly a research-based, evidence-based intervention, it comes with recommended outcome measures that are part of the protocol. And the expectation is not only you deliver the program as it was designed with the right intensity and with the right level of professionals, but you also evaluate that program using the evidence-based outcome measures which are embedded in. It's like buying a package. It comes as a package. So one of the things that we look for when programs tell us that they're using evidence-based interventions is, are they following it with fidelity? If it tells you you have to have a certain number of interventions, are you implementing that number, or are you cutting them in half because you don't have sufficient staff? In other words, any kind of violation of the model or the evaluation program destroys the underlying evidence validity of what you're doing. So we're going to be looking at evidence-based interventions with validated protocols. There's emphasis on building capacity to better identify children to 0 to 3 who are being served and to stratify outcomes for them specifically. So what that means is, for many of our programs that you saw serve children 0 to 5, we would like the capacity to go in and carve out the children 0 to 3 and look at them specifically as a cohort to see, are they doing as well as the older children? Are there any specific issues that emerge for 0 to 3 children that are not characteristic of older children? Do their parents need certain more specific interventions because they're dealing with infants and toddlers as opposed to older preschool children? So part of what that is going to require is that we're going to have to ask our agencies that we fund to do a better job of identifying children 0 to 3, designating them in their profiles and their databases, which would allow us to go in and stratify outcomes by those particular demographic characteristics. So what are our projected outcomes for the 0 to 3 portfolio? And you will be hearing reports on these over the rest of this year into next year. As you know, we routinely have outcome reports to the board for different result areas and different projects. So this is what we envision for 0 to 3. Children will be developing appropriately in all areas: cognitive, developmental, social, and emotional. And we've talked about some of the tools that we will be using for that. Increase access for families to affordable, high-quality child care centers. Increased positive teacher-child interactions in the classroom. Retention and consistency of qualified staff. And all of these, as you see, as outcome areas, relate directly to the interventions and the program investments that were just previously described. Increase parent-caregiver knowledge of their child's development, better parenting skills and parenting engagement, that families are connected sooner to appropriate intervention services with follow-up to ensure services were received and utilized, and increased quality of programming and services across the spectrum of 0 to 3 early childhood development programs. And so we need to have a cornucopia of measures in each of these areas to let you know how we are doing in meeting these targets in terms of specific outcomes. Now, on the horizon, as you might know, we released a letter of intent for 3 result areas, one of which was early childhood development. And those letters of intent are currently under review. But what I would like you to know is that we got 11 letters of intent for the early childhood result area. I think community engagement had 2, Karen, and early childhood had 4? Early had 5? Prevention of childhood neglect, PCAN. I think it had about 5. So what you can see is relatively how many more letters of intent came in for the 0 to 3 adult area, which makes me think people were waiting out there to really do something. And that's how I interpret that in this arena. So we have the greatest number. They're under review now. These letters of intent will determine who goes on to be invited to submit a full RFP. That RFP process will play out, and the recommendations of the programs to fund, which come out of that RFP, will come to you in December at your December board meeting. So there would be a notion that these would start with the beginning of the new calendar year. Okay? Shannon, I think any questions or comments?
On the workforce stabilization funds, that's a great thing. Is there a reason why the YMCA Suncoast wasn't included in that?
I'm sorry, Dr. Grego, hold on a minute. Let me go get my earphones so I can hear you. Karen can answer that.
We had 21 programs, so the programs that Dr. Barbara Morrison-Rodriguez just went over were only specifically for the early learning centers. But
Okay.
Suncoast did receive workforce
Thank you.
stabilization for their after-school program.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, so they were a subset of the pool.
When you get to the, you talked about the grand families portion where you guys are going to go into the think tank portion of it. The reality of it is that I deal with great grandparents. And so while there are some of the young grandparents that Beth and you spoke about, the reality of it is that we have great grandparents that are the sole caregivers. And the truth of the matter is the world now is not the world when they were children.
Absolutely.
And so none of these tests and any of that existed. But a part of your think tank, I would have you, even with the grandparents, discuss their ability to actually parent these children until the age of 18. Mm-hmm. Because there's always a thought that my child is going to get better, and the reality is they don't. And the situation is this: we are highly unlikely, and I'm going to be honest, highly unlikely to allow for a great-grandparent that's way up in years to adopt an infant or a toddler if they don't have a plan B, because that child will be coming back to us should something happen. Anything can happen to any of us at the drop of a dime, but the reality of it is when you have someone that's higher up in years, those children are going to come back. So in your think tank, if you could maybe speak with them about what is your plan B, so that these kids don't come into to care if they're not already in care.
That is superb advice, and it is something that we have thought about. And one of the things that I mentioned, and my passion about the grand families comes from from several different areas. First of all, being African American, we would not have survived had it not been for and maybe you as well. We can tell you that our grandparents were the linchpins of holding us all together. I have also spent many years in geriatrics where I've seen the other side of this, where that great-grandmother that you're talking about was in a program that I was involved with, and we happened to learn that she was caring now, not just for, in other words, she had been caregiving for 3 generations. That the woman your age probably has 3 generations of caregiving. So all of the nuances that you've mentioned are things that we have discussed and we need to take into account. Just trying to think, for example, what some of these grandparents may have dealt with during COVID, just around the technology. Understanding what was required, where to go to get assistance, what needs to happen. And the school systems are so different from when they raise their own children. So having interact with the school system is another area. But one of the things that we will be advocating is for those grandparents that want legal advice, whether it's around custody or being able to approve medical procedures or whatever, is that part of this program design is that we would have legal partners who worked with us who could advise these grandparents on what they may need to know as far as taking care of their grandchildren.
Bay Area Legal Services, they do have a group of grandparents that they deal with. They come in for what we call the 751s, the temporary custody. So if that could be your starting point.
They're on our list. They are embedded in our logic model.
Well, and we're already engaged with them in a variety of other ways. I know, having heard one of the case reports on the Children's Mental Health Initiative, working with a child and custodial grandmother who had, as I recall, about 8 different big issues to deal with, only one of which was this issue of, do I have medical power of attorney, and do I have authority to work with the school system and help this kid get the services they need. And so, they started with a visit to the pediatrician and ended up with all of these other pieces that needed to be dealt with to respond to a grandmother that, as I recall, was right up to here and was really, to your point, Judge Moore, ready to say, I can't do this anymore. And maybe that ultimately is the right answer, but maybe with supports, that grandparent can step up and engage other family members as well to be part of that small village that raises that child.
Right, exactly. So I think these are all nuances that are going to be part of the work that we have to do.
Susan?
Yes, and I guess I'll show I've been around a long time. Hi, Larry. I was part of the initial team that wrote Kinship Services Network many, many, many years ago. It is a program that we were excited about then. As the CEO of Big Brothers Big Sisters, we knew the grandparents and the challenges, so we buddied up and wrote the grant. I'd love to see the new early childhood development and working together with Kinship, because after all these years, the knowledge that you must have, not only about grandchildren, but I know through 2 great grandmothers, fairly young, dealing with some challenges now. So I am overjoyed about seeing this come off the paper. When I think about writing Kinship Services Network back in, and now we're seeing this initiative for JWB coming off the paper and getting into implementation stage. It's very exciting, and the time is now to keep going.
Absolutely.
Because it's becoming more and more prevalent of those of us around the table who have been around to see grandparents raising grandchildren and family caregivers more and more than ever before. Yeah. And I'd like to see if Dr. Grego, that's a question, are you working or know about Kinship Services Network?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
I
So,
had one question.
yeah.
Quick question. On your great presentation.
Thank you.
On your evaluation portion of it, are there plans to place some specific increases, when you say increase by such and such?
Oh, yeah.
Will the board be receiving?
Absolutely.
Is it 25% that we're looking for? What are our goals?
You can believe every outcome that we report on is going to have a benchmark that we'll be aiming for within a certain period of time.
Thanks.
And just to respond, I think one of the things that's important, and then I'll go back to what I said before, the fact that Larry's program, Kinship Program, was part of this presentation shows us that many of the things which are being done in other result areas, PCAN specifically, also intersect with the early childhood development result area, because you're dealing with families that have very young children. So we are looking for partnerships wherever we need them.
Mr. Butler?
Yeah, when I was going through foster care parent school, I would say in a class of about 35 or 40 folks, half of them were grandparents. Is that still mandated through the court?
They go through the classes now to get the extra funding.
For funding.
They get a little bit more funding as a foster caregiver than a relative caregiver. And so that's why some of the people are doing it.
I was just wondering, because it seemed like a tremendous amount.
Right. And then those are the ones who we know. I think that there's probably a whole substrata that are below the radar screen that we don't know anything about.
I just wanted to pop in, Judge Moore's exactly right, that grandparents who already have taken on the responsibility of caring for their grandkids or aunts and uncles who are doing the same thing, once they have gone through the legal process, they begin receiving at least some stipend, but I want to say State Bill 7034.
Right.
I'm getting the right one? Good.
7034.
Makes a number of changes relative to how DCF is working with families and paying families. So two of those were, one was directly related to what are called family and non-family caregivers, but those informal connections, and providing an earlier payment to those families before they'd gotten through the full foster care certification process, and also making the stipend that they receive each month equivalent to the foster care system, which, you know, they're doing all of the same things, but we're certainly aware there are grandparents and others who would have wanted to take care of their grandkids, but just couldn't possibly afford to do that. The other is a recognition that as a foster parent, it's more expensive to take on a child 0 to 3 than it is a child who's 8 or 9 because of childcare costs. And there is an additional stipend that will be paid to those families, whether foster families or other, who've got the little ones. So there are some nice changes that reflect some of what you've been seeing forever. I'm not saying it's enough, but but it's a big difference.
Any other comments or questions? Okay, then I have a few comments.
Okay.
And as you know, I have been supportive of this program from the minute we talked about it, and I'm also impatient.
Yeah, I know.
It's great self-reflection.
At least I admit it. But there has been studies going on from USF for 30 years. Not a whole lot of attention to that. We now have a think tank of the most learned people around, I'm sure, that are out there putting all this data and information together. And we are ready to invest, and we have been investing. I ask that we look at how we might accelerate some of the pieces of this, because as we're hearing, we've got aging grandparents, great-grandparents that are out there trying to do that. We have a population that is it's been growing, not that it hasn't been growing, and we live in a very unstable time right now. So we got all the wrong things happening at the wrong time, and we've got a lot of 0 to 3 out there that need our support. So I ask that if there's anything that we can do as you look through these programs that we might be able to accelerate a bit and get out there faster, or that we can get through the data analytics more quickly, and if there's any other lessons learned that we could grasp from what was being done at the 4 and above level at ELC. Any of those things that we can bring down to the 0 to 3 level and start executing more quickly, I think that would be well appreciated by not myself only, but by the community and by the grandparents and great-grandparents, and that matter the children for their future. So I'm just asking to really take a good hard look at that and see what we can or what we might be able to do. And I would hope that this board would be very thankful for that and very willing to make those steps. Okay.
I couldn't agree more.
All right, with that, if there are any other questions or comments, let's move on to the Chief Executive.
Thank you. The first thing I wanted to share was a handwritten note I received from Irene Sullivan, but it was addressed to many in this room and including you. Wow, what a fantastic luncheon. Fabulous setting, packed crowd, delicious lunch, and of course, I was so honored, humble, and joyous to receive the first Dillinger McCabe Children First Award. To those two, meaning Bob and Bernie, continue to be my heroes, as does JWB for all it does for Pinellas County kids. I'm so grateful, and thank you for a wonderful day. Hugs, Irene. So with that, I want to pass the baton over to Linda Leedy to tell you a little bit more about about the event and numbers and pictures and everything else.
Thanks, Beth. Good morning. While I give you a little recap, Shannon is in charge of photos. She's going to show some highlights of the event. I want to stay on this one for just a bit because this says it all. I mean, it was a beautiful room, 600 people in attendance at the Coliseum to celebrate JWB's 75th anniversary. 75 years since local leaders came together to improve the lives of children in a time where there was no foster care or juvenile justice systems. They introduced legislation that became the Juvenile Welfare Board Special Act in 1946, which was our nation's first independent board created to support and improve the lives of children in a given county. The well-attended luncheon honored our 12 Kids First awardees for the difference these social service professionals make in the lives of children, especially during the pandemic. Plus, as Beth just mentioned, we honored the Honorable Irene Sullivan, retired 6th Judicial Circuit Court judge, as the recipient of our first Dillinger McCabe Putting Children First Leadership Award, which of course this body created and approved to honor the legacies of retired public defender Bob Dillinger and the late state attorney Bernie McCabe. So a few facts and figures. Our honorary host committee was comprised of 28 current and former JWB board members, 26 of whom were in attendance. 18 hosted tables, and 2 former board members who were not able to be with us had family members in attendance. There were also 12 Kids First tables that were filled with representatives from the 12 agencies that hosted winners, and they were there to root their winner on. Of the 60 tables that were available in the room, 51 were purchased. The remaining 9 tables were filled with our community council members, our funded agency staff and partners, and of course, our JWB staff. We sold out 2 weeks before the event and had numerous panicked phone calls from people trying to buy more tables or get seats. We easily could have put another 150 people in that room. But for reasons such as parking, we will not be doing that. We only had a 5% no-show rate for an event with 600 people is just like kind of unheard of. So people really wanted to be together, they really wanted to celebrate JWB, and they really wanted to honor the Kids First awardees who have, especially during COVID, really went above and beyond. This was all orchestrated, of course, by our strategic communications team, led by Senior Manager April Pucciolo, who's over there. And the videos, of course, produced by our talented Gail Kellen Christensen, and Sabrina Edgerton-Malloy helped with photos and social media and the website, and truly a team effort from that team. But let me tell you, we had 31 JWB staff members who contributed in some form or fashion to making the event the success that it was. So I would say all around, it was a great morning or a great lunch, great afternoon, and as Mr. McCurrick said the other day, I don't know how we're going to top it. Any questions?
Unless you want to say it.
I think it's all been said. I just think I'm just once again congratulate the staff for all the hard work that they've done, and I'll say it one more time. I'm not sure how you're going to better that one next year, but we're so happy to see how many people were there. We were so happy to have the first ever Dillinger McCabe Award given to a very deserving person. So again, thank you to the staff.
And thank all of you who who are in attendance or brought tables, invited people, all the rest. It was truly a team effort across a whole lot of ways. On that morning of April 29th, since we didn't have anything else going on, that day of our 75th anniversary luncheon, we also received notice and the text that Congressman Charlie Crist entered into the congressional record acknowledging the Juvenile Welfare Board's 75th anniversary and the value of its work for 75 years. And this, of course, is added to the honors and acknowledgments we received in Tallahassee, both from the Florida House, shepherded by Representative Chris Latvala, and the Florida Senate, as proposed and carried by Senator Darrell Roussan. So it's been a spring of lots of love for JWB. Last Friday, Community Collaborations Manager Danielle Hentz and I attended Academy Prep's Fabulous Females event, and we had the pleasure of knowing each one of the 5 honorees this year, but especially important to us, and we hosted a table for Bridget Heller, who is an honoree who created and is executive director of the Shirley Proctor Puller Foundation, a JWB-funded program that is one of our very successful intensive literacy programs. And Bridget, though she was feeling well, tested positive for COVID that morning. So she was not able to be present, but because of 2 really big screens and the magic of video, she was able to make the kind of comments that she had hoped to make. And for anyone who's not attended that event, the honorees really are up there to give their words of wisdom to the Academy Prep kids. So it's not just a gee whiz thanks, it's actually some pretty meaty and wonderful remarks. So we were glad to be able to celebrate Bridget. Then this Tuesday, 2 days ago, in front of the Pinellas County School Board, I had the pleasure of making a fuss, maybe embarrassing a little, but recognizing Dr. Michael Grego's extraordinary contributions to the Juvenile Welfare Board, its funded programs, and the kids we all serve. And it was really my honor to be able to describe how much this collaboration meant and how much Dr. Grego's leadership in this collaboration meant. That we both really work together in so many ways to enhance the lives of children. So thank you again. I know we might have fussed for you earlier in this meeting, but you know, it can't be enough. And then a couple updates. FSI Connect, which is the new front door to the Family Service Initiative, is now operated by PIMS and is receiving over 100 contacts, either calls or online forms that are very easy for people to use if that works for them. So over 100 every week. And I don't know, we were running more like 250 a month before that. So more people are calling, and I would have to guess, because I know from being part of the community before I was in this role, a lot of agencies would really discourage folks from trying to call to get in FSI because it was such a burdensome, difficult process and put on hold and all that sort of thing. The phones are being answered in real time with real people and with a social service mentality. And so while we don't have data back yet on all of this, what we do know anecdotally and from commentary from the community, that not only are the phones being answered, but often the work and the referrals and the assistance is provided in that first call. So that's just a huge difference for obviously for families who are in crisis, and they wouldn't be calling if they didn't need something then. So to say we are pleased with this transition would be an understatement. We were all very concerned about the transition. Would people know who to call, and would the staffing be enough, and all the rest? And not only did that go very smoothly with a soft opening, so to speak, about 15 days before the go live date, but the quality of the service has just been extraordinary. Is there anything I missed? That's right. Okay, it's right, because I got it from Linda, so I know. But I would tell you that the FSI partners continue to work to streamline the whole process. What else can we do to make this easier, to have the documentation we need, to have the backup we need, but at the same time respond to families' needs as quickly as possible? So you'll be getting a fuller report with data probably at the June meeting. We'll be getting it later this month. In addition, I would want you to know, very under the radar, but very helpful to families, our navigators continue to work proactively with families who have signed up for or have begun the process of the Emergency Rental Assistance Program, ERAP, which are federal funds that are administered here both by Pinellas County as well as the city of St. Petersburg. But we were hearing their families had made the first application, were missing some data, didn't know what they were missing. So we have a data sharing agreement with the county so that our navigators can actually go in and say, oh, you know, these are 5 families that are hanging in the back, they're waiting. And we then are able to, or our navigators are able to reach out to those families, find out what's going on, and assist them in getting the documentation in. So it's a really great example of ways in which, as other things have happened in the community, in this case, all of these federal funds, we've been able to look from the family perspective and the organization perspective and say, okay, what's missing and how can we help families get that support? That's the money's there, but sometimes the money can be there, but it doesn't connect in the middle. And if the rent isn't paid, it doesn't really matter that there's a pool of federal money somewhere if you can't get to it. So I'm just really proud of the innovation, the thinking outside the box, the what else can we do kind of attitude that all of the Family Service Initiative partners have had. May is Mental Health and Children's Mental Health Awareness Month, and I know you all are well aware that this has been a board priority for several years, and certainly is a huge priority this year. As we all know, COVID has had a deleterious effect on every age group, but certainly teenagers in particular, for whom social life and friends are everything. It's been, I think, especially difficult. So a few of the things that we will be doing in recognition, besides our usual social media push and other ways of lifting up children's mental health as a serious issue. We will have a ribbon cutting ceremony on May 17th at 10 a.m. at North Pinellas Children's Medical Center in Palm Harbor. We were really pleased to be able to extend the Children's Mental Health Initiative to Palm Harbor and working with this private practice who in fact serve a very significant number of kids, in particular kids and families who are on Medicaid. So very much our target population. And then on Tuesday, June 14th, from 6:30 to 8:15 p.m., we will once again partner with Zero Suicide Partners of Pinellas, the USF College of Public Health, and the National Alliance of Mental Illness Pinellas, often known as NAMI, and to host a second Growing Hope Youth Suicide Prevention Town Hall. This one will be held virtually via Zoom. The first one we did was at the SPC campus of Tarpon Springs. Absolutely amazing and impactful event. And I know Mike was able to be there and welcome everyone there. And it was just amazingly well done, is all I can say. I wanted to lift up a couple of just emerging issues, and fortunately, one of those Barbara discussed, which is perfect. We're actually all thinking about many of the same things. Because besides sustaining all of our current programs, assisting them with things like workforce stabilization and other things, supporting our collaborative efforts across the county, we are also all the time paying attention to emerging issues in the national literature, in best practice across the country, as well as what we hear bubbling up in our own community. And you heard about one of those, this attention, this enhanced attention to grandfamilies and family members. their role in kids' lives, whether they are have full custody or something less than that. And so I won't go over those things, but just to say that is one of the lenses that we're using as we look at every one of our programs. Similarly, we're in a wonderful position as a state and as a county to goose up our effort to support fathers to be the best fathers that they can be. So House Bill 7065, led by our Florida House Speaker Chris Sprowls, passed with strong bipartisan support. I think it was unanimous in both houses, and was signed by the governor. And so this legislation, generally called the Fatherhood Initiative, is designed to address what both Speaker Sprowls and the governor have called the fatherhood crisis. JWB, along with many of our funded agencies, including the Department of Healthy Families that Barbara talked about, as well as Operation PAR's Motivating New Parents, which Barbara also talked about, have already been, for several years, investing in increasing healthy fatherhood engagement in their children's lives. And this has many components to it. Engagement is one real key. Enhancing fathers' ability to be the best they can be as parents, in particular having a better appreciation for what appropriate ages and stages are. You know, that a 2-year-old's going to act a certain way, and yep, we're sorry, but that's normal. 13 to 15-year-olds are going to act a certain way, and what's normal and what's not normal. What should I be looking out for? What are as we talk about suicide? What are those signs that something's really seriously not going well? But as has often been said, you have to take a test to get a driver's license, but not so much to be a parent. So we want to support all parents, but in particular fathers, in comfortably being in this parenthood space, that we don't name a program that motivating new moms and then expect to have fathers be engaged. So some of it's the words that we use, but it's also it trickles through all kinds of things. In the first fatherhood event that JWB held probably 3 years ago, when everything was in person, when we handed out swag bags, they weren't cutesy diaper bags in pink and floral. They were black backpacks that a dad would feel perfectly comfortable carrying. So that it goes down to some of the very small things, but is important across the board. So knowing that the Fatherhood Initiative, the state initiative, will become law July 1st, we're looking at how we can enhance the implementation of that law here in Pinellas County. So while the statute and its funding cover a variety of things, one big chunk of it is fatherhood engagement and supporting fathers in being the best fathers they can be. And there are grants, we don't know a whole lot about it, but we're staying on top of it, grants that are part of this initiative that will be, that it's our understanding that DCF will be managing and going through a grant process for local agencies across the state to either increase or add fatherhood-specific programs. So one of the ways we think we can help is, one, just stay on top of what's going on and then share that information with Pinellas County organizations so they're in the best position to apply for and receive funding here in Pinellas County to enhance the roles of fathers. So we're not quite sure what else we might do to assist in this regard, but we're going to find everywhere we can where we can connect with this really phenomenal initiative from the state level. It's phenomenal to the point that the National Fatherhood Initiative, taking note of what's going on in Florida, is going to have some specific technical assistance and webinars to communicate to community-based agencies what's going on, what they can do, and so on. So it's really a beacon nationally, and we love all of Florida's children, but we do sort of favor our Pinellas kids. So we're going to do everything we can to make sure those things connect, and that the fatherhood initiative from the state level has a real impact here on Pinellas County fathers, families, and children. So I'll leave it at that. If you haven't caught it, it's been a really busy month for your JWB staff, and they've accomplished a great deal.
Great. Thanks, Beth, for the update and for all that good, really good information. The next on the agenda is the information items. If anyone has any comments or questions there, you can bring them up. Hearing none. Open agenda. Do we have any? We have no cards. Okay, so before I adjourn, we have future meetings, but more importantly, we have a lot of anniversaries. Mr. Butler.
Yeah, that's right. Our first one is Jennifer Arteaga, 11 years. Thank you for your service. Ann Crawford, 8 years. Lorraine Hayes, 6 years. Joanne DeLorenia, got that one. Bad. 5 years. Laura Kruger Brock, 2 years. Willie Shaw, 2 years. Cindy Matson, 1 year. Susan Patterson, 1 year. And Zoe Blair Andrews. And I can't wait till next year to try that name one more time. That's it.
Okay, there are.
I want to mention one more thing.
Yes.
As we look at it, who is in our room, one of the things our chair said is, gee, you know, we don't have as many people attending our meetings. And I wanted to share, because we don't see it here in the room, but there are probably about 200 people seeing this meeting via Zoom, either real time, or if their schedule doesn't allow, it's recorded and they can see it later. So we all have to behave ourselves. There really are people watching.
I'm glad you brought that up, because I was asked the question on the way in, how come we don't put board members, parking for board members outside any longer? And that's a good reason why. And it's pretty impressive to see that we have 200 plus people that actually watch us. It's probably about as much as the county commission gets. At times.
We don't need as many people public commenting as the county commission gets. You guys can keep that.
Okay, with that said, I call this meeting adjourned.
How's that boat thing going?
Over 200 emails on that within 2 days. Oh my God. Whoever's organizing the email campaign is
doing a good job. Yeah. Yeah. They don't